nor was it painted in the glossy shades of the wealthier neighborhoods, but to Soraya Ahmed it was a castle. Built with the combined efforts of her late husband and herself, the small two-story home on the corner of an old street carried memories pressed into every wall. The faded curtains in the living room had been stitched by her own hands. The wooden swing in the backyard was where her two children, Samir and Aisha, had spent endless afternoons laughing under the golden sunlight. After her husband's death in a road accident, this house had become her only shield against the harshness of the world. Every night she reassured her children, as long as we have our home, we are safe. But life has a way of testing even the strongest promise. It started with a letter. A thin official envelope slid under her door one morning. At first, Soraya thought it was another bill, but when she tore it open, her eyes froze on the bold black print. According to the document, the ownership of her home had been transferred to a distant cousin of her late husband, a man named Nadim Khan, known in the community for his ruthless dealings and political connections. Her heart pounded. "This must be a mistake," she muttered. "How can my home be transferred without my consent?" That night she could not sleep. Memories of her husband's voice whispered in her mind, reminding her how hard they had both worked to save every rupee for this house. She held the papers tightly in her trembling hands, tears staining the ink. The next day, Soraya went to confront Nadim. He was sitting in a large leather chair in his office, surrounded by men who laughed too loudly at his jokes. Soraya entered nervously. "This house is mine. How dare you claim it?" Nadim leaned back, a smirk curling on his lips. "Everything is legal, Soraya. Your husband owed me money. He signed documents before his death. Now the house belongs to me." "That's a lie," she shouted, her voice breaking. "My husband would never—" Nadim cut her off, his tone cold. "You're a widow with no power. Accept reality before it crushes you. Leave the house quietly and maybe I'll let you keep your dignity." Humiliation and rage clashed within her. She stormed out, her mind spinning. She could not let her children be thrown onto the streets. Part 4. Seeking help. Soraya first went to a lawyer. The man, old and tired, adjusted his spectacles as he studied the papers. After a long silence, he said, "Your case is strong. These documents look forged, but legal battles cost money. Court fees, my fee, and months of struggle." "How much?" she asked desperately. The amount he mentioned was more than she could earn in a year. Her heart sank. Outside his office, the city felt crueler than ever. People rushed past her, indifferent to her tears. A neighbor later whispered in her ear, "Don't fight Nadim. He has connections. Even the police fear him," but Soraya refused to surrender. Part 5. The police station. 1. Rainy evening, with her children's frightened faces haunting her, she gathered all courage and went to the local police station. The building smelled of damp files and dust. Officers sat behind desks cluttered with papers, their expressions bored. She stepped forward. "Sir, please, I need help. My house has been stolen. The documents are forged." The officer at the desk barely looked up. "Property matters are civil cases. Go to court." Her voice trembled. "But I have no money for lawyers. I just want justice. Please, my children will have no roof if you don't act." Most of the officers shrugged her off, but one young officer, Inspector Farouk, noticed her tears. He leaned closer and asked softly, "Do you have proof?" She handed him the original purchase papers signed years ago by her husband. Farouk studied them carefully. "These are authentic, and the transfer documents look suspicious." Soraya's eyes filled with hope for the first time in weeks. Part 6. Investigation. Inspector Farouk began a quiet investigation. He called in handwriting experts who confirmed that her late husband's signatures on the transfer papers were forged. He interviewed neighbors who testified that Soraya and her husband had lived in the house for over a decade without dispute, but the more he dug, the more resistance he faced. Nadim's men visited the station, offering bribes. When Farouk refused, threats followed. One night, Soraya overheard men outside her home whispering warnings, "Stop pushing, or your children will pay." Fear gripped her, but she clutched her children close, whispering, "We will not bow." Part 7. The struggle grows. Weeks passed. Soraya was summoned to hearings where Nadim's lawyers mocked her. "She's just a desperate widow inventing lies." But she stood firm, her voice unwavering. "This house is my children's inheritance." At the same time, life grew harder. "You will not steal it." Without security, people stopped lending her money. Her children were forced to quit school for a while because she could not pay the fees. Hunger gnawed at them, but their mother's determination became their strength. Inspector Farouk encouraged her. "Justice moves slowly, but it moves. Don't give up." Part 8. The turning point. The breakthrough came when a clerk in the property office confessed under pressure. He admitted that Nadim had bribed him to file false papers. His testimony, along with the handwriting expert's report, became the turning point. The police registered a criminal case against Nadim. News spread quickly across the neighborhood. For the first time, people began to whisper not in fear, but in admiration of the widow who dared to fight. Part 9. Courtroom battle. The courtroom was filled with tension. Nadim arrived in a suit, flanked by lawyers, his confidence unshaken. Soraya came in simple clothes, her children by her side. The judge listened as both sides presented their arguments, Nadim claiming she was lying for sympathy, but when the forged documents were compared to the genuine ones and the property clerk testified against Nadim, the truth unfolded clearly. Nadim's face turned pale as the judge thundered, "The house legally belongs to Mrs. Soraya Ahmed. Furthermore, criminal charges for fraud and forgery will proceed against Mr. Nadim." When Soraya walked back into her home with the court's order in hand, her children ran to her, clinging to her clothes. Tears streamed down her face as she touched the walls that had witnessed so many nights of despair. Neighbors gathered, some apologizing for doubting her, others cheering her courage. Inspector Farouk visited briefly, smiling. "I told you, justice may be late. Told you, justice may be late." That night, Soraya lit candles in every corner of her house. She prayed quietly, thanking God for giving her strength. Her children, safe and joyful, played once again in the backyard swing. The house was no longer just walls and a roof. It was a symbol of her fight, her dignity, and her victory. Months later, Soraya became a quiet hero in her community. Women who faced injustice came to her for advice. She told them, "Never give up your voice even when the world tries to silence you. A home is not just bricks, it is the soul of your family." And though life still carried hardships, Soraya now carried within her the unshakable knowledge that even the powerless can rise when they hold on to truth. Her stolen home had been returned, but more importantly, she had reclaimed her strength.